You're listening to Have You Ever Wondered? It is Thursday, June 9th, 2022. I'm Chloe, and the title of today's episode is Don't Sleep on Jason Bateman. But for real though, so far it seems that the flow of the show is going to somewhat parallel the flow of my brain, which also somewhat parallels the flow of life, which is to say, sometimes it's heavy and sometimes it's not. I am happy to introduce to you the idea that today it is not heavy, it is light, at least for the next few minutes. Don't sleep on Jason Bateman. Now, whether you know the man personally or not, I don't mean physically sleep on him, of course. I mean, he has a wife, so don't sleep on Jason Bateman. But what I really mean is, if you haven't given any attention to his career prior to Ozark, or maybe not even including Ozark, which of course has garnered him a lot of attention in the last few years, then go back, take a peek, see what you think. I thought of this as a topic a couple weeks ago because occasionally throughout life, a person becomes notable to me. I put the word in quotes in my notes because that might not be the best word to describe it, but it's to say that for some reason or another, something about a particular person resonates with me, and then after that, they're just always on my radar. And no, it's not always celebrities. It could be literally anyone, and the reasons why it happens differ drastically. But uniquely with Jason Bateman, because he's been very visible since he was a young child, which of course was well before I was born, it means that I've never been alive without having him a part of my consciousness that I can remember, which is kind of significant because even with people who manage to find celebrity, oftentimes it is short-lived. And so the fact that his career has spanned essentially my entire life is part of what makes it notable, but it's not the only thing. Now, I haven't seen all of his work, but there are certain points throughout his career where I particularly appreciated what he was doing, and those are the ones I wanted to highlight for you. And then you can go to IMDb and see if there's anything else that he's done that you want to look at. But the reason I recommend you do that is because in addition to the more dramatic style that he's been known for recently, he's also the purveyor of this certain brand of comedy. It's so subtle. It's so dry. It's so deadpan. Just thinking of it, I'm for real laughing. And you know who has a very similar sense of humor to that? My brother. And he's been making me laugh for most of his life. It's that gentle, quiet, subtle, blink if you miss it comedy that makes me want to fall on the floor and laugh so loudly that it seems unreasonable, but I'm not really one to believe in stifling a laugh. Like, let the joy happen, you know? And we need more joy in the world. Like, have you seen Arrested Development? Have you had a conversation with my brother? Of course, everyone's sense of humor is different, so it might not be the same for you. But the first thing I remember seeing him in when I was a child were reruns of a show that in my head I call The Hogan Family, but that I actually learned went through even more iterations than I had realized with its titleage. You know what? Here, I'll let him tell you.
Well, it started out being called Valerie, and then it was called Valerie's Family, and then they switched it to the Hogans, and then the Hogan Family. So in 5.5 years, there were 4 titles. It was one of my favorite jobs of my career, my life, and I love all those people. That was felt like a really safe cave we were in. Like we all had a job and it was going to last forever, and then you realize things go away.
I wish that I could still watch it somewhere. There's so much nostalgia that I have surrounding that show. They actually used to play it in like super reruns at one of those like digital channels that only comes in if you have a digital antenna, and it would come on at 3:30 in the morning, and I used to wake up at 3:30 in the morning on purpose just to watch it because you couldn't find it anywhere else. So if you find the Hogan Family anywhere, streaming, DVD, I'll even take an under the table torrent file, please let me know. Now, years and years and years later, after what turned out to be a number of terrible and short-lived sitcoms that I wasn't allowed to watch because I grew up in a very strict household, he came back to the forefront of my mind after I moved out of my parents' house, and he got a little job making a little show that you may have heard of called Arrested Development. Now, I didn't see the show when it was live on the air at first, unfortunately. So it must have been when they put it on Netflix that I finally got to take advantage of all 5 seasons. But this is not hyperbole. It is one of the funniest television shows that has ever been created anywhere. Full stop. Again, that subtle deadpan. And him being the straight man for every other ridiculous character that is on that show. I don't know how he went to work every day and didn't just dissolve into a puddle of laughs. Because I think myself actually ended up literally on the floor during more than one episode because I was laughing so hard. And I could always watch it again. As a matter of fact, I just did with my sister the last time I was doing her hair for her, and we were almost shouting, laughing, even though the episodes we were watching we had seen before. So please take a look at it if you haven't seen it, and I hope it brings you as much laughter and joy as it brought him renewed success.
Staying employed is tough. Success or relevance is paper thin, and you've got to try to align yourself with as many talented and kind people as you can because you need them. This is not an individual game. It takes a team, and so working with quality people on quality things is what I think fuels longevity. And if you want to stay in it for a while, look for the good people.
Now, more recently, you're looking at him working on Ozark. And what I like about Ozark, even though I'm sorry I might be one of the few people left on the planet that's still in season 1, is that the decisions they make on the show are really intentional. And if you've ever tried to do something on a massive scale, like shoot a movie or write an album, even put together a good Instagram story, you know that the way something starts in your mind and the way the final product ends, if you can match those and the end product actually gets there, it's very satisfying. There's a mood they're trying to create on that show, and you can tell it's intentional, and they succeeded at it. I use it in the past tense because I do believe they're finished making all their episodes by now. And I also love it when people who are very funny portray a very serious subject, because life is both very serious and very funny. And so the intermingling of those two feels more authentic to me than just playing something as purely serious or purely funny. So as much as flying, as I mentioned in last week's show, can sometimes be difficult for me, I actually am looking forward to the next time I need to do so, because it seems to be the only time I have time to watch it.
Letting us create kind of this tone and atmosphere and moodiness and dangerousness and chilling elements that are all there in the script, and then trying to figure out what that looks like and what it sounds like was my job as director and EP, where you make all these choices to kind of build this environment, and it's been really, really rewarding. I feel very, very fortunate.
Now, I am not the kind of person who puts celebrities on a pedestal or believes that they are more important than or better than any other person on the planet. But what I do appreciate about all types of people is talent. I have always found myself drawn to talent in whatever vessel I find it, because the world is so full of darkness and desperation and destruction that to appreciate someone's talent is to celebrate a gift that they've been given, that they are now paying forward to you. And I think it's an honor and a privilege to be a part of that equation. So, don't sleep on Jason Bateman. Notably, it might not be JB for you, because talent lives everywhere, and you might be able to find someone's talent that resonates with you in a place that you weren't expecting. It might even be in yourself. So keep an eye out for talent, because it turns out in the most unexpected places, and if it belongs to you, nurture it, share it. We want to see it. So on his podcast, which is called Smart List, because apparently having a podcast is just the thing to do these days, ha ha ha. I have heard Jason Bateman mention more than once that the person that he was when he was a younger actor was kind of arrogant and difficult to deal with, versus the more mature version of himself that he brings into places nowadays. That really made me think about remaining in similar spaces but becoming a different version of yourself. And I hope the poem that I chose for today reflects that. It's called Adult by Linda Gregg. I've come back to the country where I was happy, changed. Passion puts no terrible strain on me now. I wonder what will take the place of desire. I could be the ghost of my own life, returning to the places I lived best, walking here and there, nodding when I see something I cared for deeply. Now I'm in my house, listening to the owls calling and wondering if slowly I will take on flesh again. Thanks for going on this journey with me, guys. I kind of like the idea of occasionally taking a specific person or a topic that I really appreciate and meandering through it with you a bit. So this is probably not the only time that we will do this. Now, if you have to go, go. But I wanted to leave you with a little bit longer of a clip where Bateman is describing his time working on Arrested Development that I didn't incorporate earlier on the show, just for the flow, so we could keep it a little, like I said yesterday, as concise as possible. But if you want to stick around, it's just under 2 minutes, and I really like what he had to say. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow.
Tell me the truth, okay? Because there's been a lot of lying in this family.
And a lot of love.
More lies.
Arrested Development was a show that was clearly a huge, huge help to me and my career. That was a big life preserver for me. That was an audition that came my way. An ex-agent, an old agent of mine, called and said, hey, I'm looking at the breakdown on this casting for the show, and I see that you haven't read for this show. You should ask your new agents. So I asked my new agents to send me in on that, and they said, yeah, you're not going to want to read for that. That show's never going to get on the air. It's like a mockumentary, and there's a narrator. Ron Howard's going to do the narrating, and I don't even know if they're ever going to be able to get him. And apparently there's no dressing rooms, there's no lights, there's no makeup. It's a mess. I said, well, can I read it? They said, sure, you can read it if you want. So I read the script, and of course it was incredibly funny to read, and I went in and read for it and ended up just sort of guessing right to what they might want out of that role of Michael Bluth. The guy, the boss, Mitch Hurwitz, followed me out of the room and said, hey, you're auditioning tomorrow for this other show that I'm producing, but this one, right? You like this? I said, yeah, I'd love to do this show. He said, great. He said, don't come in for that show tomorrow, because I don't want that network to see you. I want you to do this one. And I was like, did this guy just give me the job? So that was a very exciting day for me and my career, and of course the show turned out to be one of my favorite things ever, and I owe a lot to Mitch Hurwitz.
Now, do you want to steer, or are you too old to sit on your pop's lap and drive?
I think I might be.
Okay.